capacity? Well, coaching gets all the press. I mean, you see, football gets in there, but it's what goes on behind the scenes that are really the important things. I actually started my educational career in 1982 at Crespi High School teaching biology, anatomy, and oceanography, and served as an assistant football and track coach. I then moved to Westlake High School in 1989, taught biology and physiology, as well as being the head football and track coach. In 2021, which was last year, I was honored at this event to speak on behalf of my high school, Westlake High School principal, Mr. Kurt Luft, who was inducted into the Hall of Fame last year. Great educators, like the ones who will meet here tonight, do more than teach. They mentor, guide, listen, instruct, and foster the future leaders of the next generation. Many of our students spend more time with their teachers and coaches than they spend with their own parents. So teachers have a huge impact on their maturity and growth. For over 40 years, my players and students have heard me use these words: stand up for what is right, even if you're standing alone. My hope is that all of the kids that I've coached and taught are strong enough and comfortable enough to stand up, even if they are standing alone. The Ventura County Educators Hall of Fame is privately run and privately governed 501c3 nonprofit organization started in 2005 when two people came together to foster the dream of honoring the best of this profession. They were retired Hueneme High School teacher and coach Jim Lane and Mr. Darren Parent, who is not with us tonight because he is ill. Eventually, others came to the mix to help co-found the Hall of Fame, and they included Larry Miller of Hueneme High School, Les Meredith, a retired vice principal from Pleasant Valley High School, and Mary Parent of Camarillo. Together, these five co-founders gradually brought together the framework of what the Hall of Fame would be and how it would be operated. A board was put in place, and the inaugural class was selected and honored in October of 2007. The venue for the inaugural event was the Casa Serena Lobster Trap in Oxnard, where 435 people packed the house to see the first class of 10 inductees honored. The reason the Hall of Fame was founded was that there was no such organization to honor extraordinary educators. There were athletic organizations across the country, but only one Educators Hall of Fame in the United States, and that was a website-only organization in a small Maryland county. The Hall of Fame was founded and organized to represent the whole of Ventura County in its first year. Currently, we have 63 Ventura County educators that have been inducted into the Hall of Fame in the 14 years since that inaugural event. They include men and women representing elementary, middle school, high school, community college, and university levels of education. There have been 2 honorees who have served over 50 years in education: Barbara Collins of Cal Lutheran University in the class of 2012, and Thomas O'Neill of Ventura College in the class of 2007. 3 were from kindergarten: Sharon Harada, class of 2012, Judy Crenshaw, class of 2013, and Raylene Manger, class of 2014. Regretfully, Raylene passed away a few weeks ago. Rio Mesa High School has the most inductees with 5. Founding Principal Elmont Mickelson, class of 2007, Tom Regan, class of 2011, Ed Phillips, class of 2012, Susan Andrews, class of 2016, and Richard Bellman, class of 2017. I would like to now introduce the current Hall of Fame board members in attendance tonight. Would you please stand when I call your names? Board member Linda Valdez. Board member Billie Jean Easley. Board member Susan Palmer. Come on, Susan. Take your bows. The Ventura County Hall of Fame is honored to have the following people in attendance tonight: former Port Hueneme Mayor Sylvia Munoz Schnapp. Would you please stand? Thank you. Camarillo City Councilman Kevin Keldy. Thank you for being here. 2012 Hall of Fame inductee Manny Valdez. Darren is not here, and Darren, as I said, Darren Parent, who is the instrumental leader of this organization, and he's sick tonight, but he did give me a call and gave me some instructions on the agenda and the what to talk about here, and he wanted to make sure that we paid homage to some of these founding fathers of this organization, and he asked me to talk on Dr. Larry Miller. I know many of you know Dr. Miller, and he's from Hueneme High School, and he passed away early this year, and I had the opportunity to visit him before he passed. He ended up getting pancreatic cancer, and it was pretty quickly that he passed, and he didn't have a chance to say he loved everyone, but if you knew Larry, you know Larry, he loved everyone. So I wrote a few words about Larry. I first met Dr. Larry Miller in the spring of 1989, and this is a true story. I was out on the football field at Westlake High School pulling weeds because there was weeds everywhere, and back in those days we had what you called grass fields. So I had to go out there and pull weeds, and here comes this gentleman walks up to me from the street, and he walks over and he says, "Hey, I'd like to volunteer as a football coach." And I said, "Well, what are your qualifications?" He says, "Well, I'm an electrician. I've been an electrician forever. I played football, but I want to volunteer." I said, "You meet the criteria. You're hired." So 2 hours later, we were still pulling weeds, and he got down on his hands and knees, and we started pulling weeds together. I had met this gentleman for 1 second, and we were already friends. We were already family. We were already brothers. And for the next years and years, we were together and inseparable. He decided at just under 40 years old, he wanted to get, after he coached for a couple of years with me, he wanted to get an education. So he went back to school. Around 40 years old, I don't know exactly when it was, but he went back to school and got his teaching credential and was hired at Oak Park, the Oak Park School District, and was able to get a teaching job and everything. And then all of a sudden he calls me up and says, hey Coach, I'm thinking about applying for that Hueneme job. I said, "Are you kidding me? Hueneme hasn't won a game in 4 years. You're going to take that job, and it's going to be your end of your coaching career." But he was undaunted. He had played football at Hueneme. He was the Tom McCann Ventura County top player in Ventura County in 1969 out of Hueneme. He ended up going to Moorpark College and then playing at Fresno State. And he just wanted to get back into football, so he took the job and he turned it around. And he became that program became really the program of the 90s. I mean, he really did a great job there. Kept the kids there. I know Kerry Colbert, who played for him there. And I could name a number of the great players, but Kerry is now coaching at the University of Florida. He was a receiver coach at USC until that staff was changed over, and now he's at Florida, and he just talks the world about Larry Miller. If you ever knew Larry, his favorites, yabba dabba, yabba dabba, yabba dabba. That's all he would say, hey, yabba dabba. So I'm going to say to you, Larry, yabba dabba. He spent the last few years battling cancer and other illnesses. The Lord called him to heaven early this year. I prayed during this time that I gave him as much joy as he gave me. I mean, I'm telling you, this man was at Hueneme High School, and I called him up and said, "Larry, I'm having some problems with my electricity in my man cave. I need you to come help me." He'd jump in that car, and he'd be right at my house, and rewiring the whole darn place. He still had that ability, but he was one of those guys that would do anything for anyone, anytime. I just wish that his last few years, people knew how sick he was, so that we could pay back to him and give him what he gave us. So in that, I'm thankful for the times we had together. I'm thankful for him being instrumental in putting this whole organization together, because it wouldn't be possible without people like he and some of these other co-founders. So let's hear it for Dr. Larry Miller. I'd now like to to bring up Vera Alamillo to present the award to Richard Malke, sorry. Vera, come on up, Vera. Let's hear it for Vera.
I'm a substitute too. I just found out yesterday that I'm going to do this since Ed Gibbs was going to do it, but he got COVID too, so please bear with me. I first met Dick Malke at my church, and we moved from, my husband was principal. I wasn't going to say this, but he's been joking, so I can tell you what to do. Anyway, my husband was principal of junior high in Moore Park. But we got tired of all the gifts that the 7th and 8th graders were giving us, like blowing up our mailboxes and stuff like that. So we decided to move to Camarillo. And going to church, the very first person we met was Richard Malke. And he always said hello and everything. And his wife, Rhoda, and him invited us over even for a little coffee get together so we could get to know him and what the happenings in the church and everything. So, and then a few years later, I went back to teaching because my son right here was in school, and I started substitute teaching. And I went around to a lot of schools, but I kept getting called to Los Dallas where Dick was. And that was the best school to go to. First of all, I knew the principal, so I didn't have to be afraid. And the teachers were so friendly. And then one day Dick comes and said, the third grade teacher needs the rest of the year off because she's going to have a baby. And the district hired me to replace her full time. So that was fun. I was at a school where I really enjoyed people, I enjoyed the principal, and I got to see what Dick was doing all the time. And then at the end of the year, I was packing my stuff up, and he said, where are you going? I said, take my stuff home. He said, no, you just take it over to the next, if you want, you can just take it over to the next unit because there's another teacher there who's going to have a baby. And she's going to take the whole year off. So I was able to spend more than a year and a half teaching with Dick. And of course, I would see him at church all the time too, because he has such a warm, warm heart. And the thing that impressed me the most was the time he spent with children out on the playground. He even shot hoops with the boys and sometimes played foursquare. And he was talking to the kids, and the kids just absolutely loved him. And Dick was a principal who wasn't only interested in kids learning the 3 R's. He wanted them to learn about caring for each other, and consideration, and making friendships forever, and not having grudges. And that's why I think Dick Malke is one of our great principals who deserves to be in the Education Hall of Fame because he helped so many students. And he is a teacher. Oh, and my son, that big kid who just stood up, we had him for a Sunday school teacher, and he said he was the best teacher he had.
Okay. He would.
Thank you very much, Gary. Let
me say one thing about Vera. She was a wonderful teacher, and she had the gift of hospitality. She was willing to teach any child with any kind of need. And probably some teachers would be reluctant to do so. But she never wavered and she would do that. She not only took care of children in our district, but when visiting students came from overseas, she'd welcome them into her home. She also welcomed a group of ladies from the Czech Republic who came to sell books. They found a home with Vera. And so she's just such a wonderful person. Anyway, it took me a long time to write a speech. I had no idea what to write about. And so I had a hard, difficult time deciding what to give a speech about. And then finally I was reminded of my speech teacher in college who said to always give a speech on something you know a lot about. In case you lost your place in your speech, you could ad lib until you recovered. And that was good advice for young people. But I find as I have grown older that I no longer know a lot about anything. But I know a little bit about many things. There's a popular song years ago that said, I know a little bit about a lot of things, but I don't know enough about you. So my speech will be a little bit about a lot of things that led to my being an educator. Where did I start from my first day in school 85 years ago? It was a country school, as I lived on a farm, and in those days there weren't many school buses, as we lived several miles from the nearest town. So there were one or two room schools built in the farm areas. My mother took my brother and me to school, as we lived about 2 miles away. There it was, a white one-room schoolhouse. Over the door, I couldn't read the name of the school. My brother said it said Happyville. And it was because we had a teacher who made it happy. She was a lot like Raylene Manzer, whose students will never forget how wonderful she was. This teacher's name was Miss Sager. She welcomed me with her arm on my shoulder and said we were going to have a wonderful year, and we did. There were 14 students that year at the school, ranging from 1st to 8th grade, and just the one teacher. She smiled a lot. She gave me confidence to myself when I was ready to give up learning my adding and subtraction tables, as well as other subjects in 1st grade. If I was doing something wrong, she wouldn't say, stop it, but rather, well, let's do it this way. She got me off to a good start with her positive attitude that stayed with me through my years of attending school. I wasn't so fortunate 5 years later as a 6th grader. We had moved to a farm on the bus route, and I was in a classroom with 20 other 5th and 6th grade students. World War II was raging now in 1942, and the talented, skilled men and women were participating in the war effort. Sadly, the others sometimes became teachers. Miss X, our teacher, was one of those. She was unsmiling and motivated her students by walking around the classroom with an 18-inch ruler with which she would tap you on the shoulder if you didn't have your head bent down studying. I think she also had the ruler on display to remind us we could use it for other purposes as well. I vowed that someday I would be a 6th grade teacher and be a better teacher than she was. As it turned out, I did become a 6th grade teacher for 7 years, and hopefully was a better one than Miss X. When I became a teacher, among other enjoyable things, I enjoyed my fellow teachers. Usually I found it wasn't uncommon for a mad teacher to try to tease a lazy teacher. A lady teacher, not lazy, a lady teacher. And in my case, I had a lady teacher teach me. She knew I was gullible. She knew I hated having the assistant superintendent, Miss W, visit my classroom and observe my teaching because of an earlier bad experience. The teachers could sign up for a time slot for Miss W to visit their classroom, but I never would sign up, hoping that other teachers would fill in all the slots. Or that Miss W would forget I was there. But she did come into my room, and my teasing friend saw her into my room. After school, I checked my mailbox and found a black sympathy card made of black construction paper with a white lily made with white chalk on the folded cover with the words "in sympathy" printed on the cover. I opened the cover and inside it said, "I'm so sorry you had a visitor." You might ask if anything exciting happened at school. When I was a principal at Cambria Heights, I was in my office and I heard a boy running into the office and saying he was going to die in 5 minutes, holding up his finger where he had a bee sting. I grabbed his emergency card and the boy, and we dashed to my car and drove to the address of the physician on the emergency card. When we arrived, we found out it was the boy's dentist. And the dentist said he wasn't prepared to handle bee stings. It was about 30 minutes since he had struggled on it, with no sign of the effects of the allergy. We had called a mom who came embarrassed and took him to his pediatrician to make sure he was okay, and he was. I was a principal in 4 different schools and was blessed with many wonderful teachers and students. The teachers were creative and worked hard to make the lessons interesting and meaningful. And with the students' parents, to help the students become an asset to the community. Most of the students were eager to learn, and it was a pleasure to watch them mature as they moved to the next grade. I enjoyed working with the secretaries and custodians in the schools. The secretaries were usually successful in calming an irate parent before I would see the parent, and often had them laughing before I saw them. They made sure that everything in the office was running smoothly. One of the secretaries was an avid reader and would put her lunch each day in a drawer in her desk. And when all was quiet, would take out her lunch and take a few bites and replace it in her desk, and later would repeat this. By the time her lunch hour began, she had finished her lunch and would read during the lunch hour instead. She was able to read a book a week using this system. The custodians would be asked to do a multitude of things for all of us, from adjusting student desks to cleaning up after 6 children, and on and on. We had one charming little girl in the 2nd grade who had a spinal problem and couldn't walk. The custodian was delighted each day to put this little girl in a little red wagon and deliver her to her classroom while the mother would go up to the room at the end of the day to take her home. I think that my favorite role as an educator was to interrupt and interact with the students. I usually would be out on the playground as much as possible. And I remember when a couple of 1st grade girls who had must have been to Sunday school came running up to me and grabbed my hand and asked me, "Do you love Jesus?" I said, "Yes, I love Jesus." And they said, "Goody!" and ran to where the other students were shouting, "Mr. Malke loves Jesus." Lastly, I did call my daughter in Montana and asked her what I should say in my speech And her reply was, just tell them I love kids and end your speech.
Well, Mr. Richard Malke, as our newest member of the Ventura County Educators Hall of Fame, I'd like to present to you this ring as the newest member of our class. Congratulations. I would now like to bring up Harmony Lane, daughter of Jim Lane, a 2011 inductee and one of our Hall of Fame co-founders. Harmony, come on up. Okay, Harmony, it's still very, very tough for her to talk about her dad, who just passed Memorial Day of this year. So Jim Lane and I was sitting at the same table with Harmony, and I said, you know, I knew your dad, and I as the athletic director at Westside High School, I had a lot of correspondence with him as he was at Wainimi High School for a number of years. And I know his heart was in this Hall of Fame. I know his heart is with all of us and with you. And you know, so let's hear it for Jim Lane and his daughter Harmony. I'd now like to introduce the presenter for Mr. Sam Kane, Mr. Mike Waters.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here tonight. Jim, you punted and I'm making a fair catch. I don't like to be hit or tackled. As Jim said, I'm Mike Waters. I was the principal of Galena Middle School for over 20 years during Sam's 40-plus years career, 40-plus years as an educator. To say that Sam Kane was a legend among the secondary schools of the CBUSD is not an hyperbole. I was assigned as principal to Galena in the late 1980s. Sam was already revered as a three-tool counselor, as he was a friend to parents, a partner to teachers, and a teammate to the school administrative team. He won every PTSA award imaginable for his hard work on behalf of students. At that time, the amount of work that Sam put into his job was second to no one that I've ever met in education. An example would be how we attacked our goal to have a permanent schedule for every student at the school orientation days that took place before school started, the week before school started. At that time, student schedules were churned out by the district's mainframe computer. A tweak to the schedule would require 4 or 5 hours of computer time for every tweak. It was at one of these times that I found Sam and his entire family, including his dog Chloe, Cleo, I should say, camped out in the Galena Counseling office at 10 p.m. on a Friday night, waiting to see how the latest tweak turned out. Sam would stay that night, check the results, and make another tweak, and then another until each student's schedule was secured. That was just the start of my witnessing Sam, the Sam who would become a district-wide municipal beast, the Lagoon Club, and or Bigfoot. Wherever Sam saw a need, he put in the work to meet that need. Most of the clubs that all of you know at your schools were also started at Galena by Sam. Constant, consistent parent-teacher meetings were held with Sam every day of the year. Sam was the best, but not yet a Merlin. It was when Sam received his first personal computer that magical things started happening. It was like having 10 Sams or 100 Sams. For example, parents received automated phone messages as a homework assignment had been missed. Parents had signed an agreement with Sam not to contact teachers when receiving these messages, as a protection to them. Additionally, computerized histories of each student soon replaced the CUNY and were available to teachers. How was this possible? It was Sam who coded and wrote his own computer programs. The tweaks that took 4 hours on the district mainframe were completed in 15 minutes. Sam, of course, had put in multiple number of hours writing code and ever increasing the power of his program. Students received their schedules on 11.5 by 8-inch sheets with school personalized messages. Kalina was no longer tied to the district. We were free. For me, it was an exhilarating period of my career. At district meetings, I could say that Kalina would do what others questioned as impossible. I was able to name that tune in 3 notes, 4 letters, S-A-N. My personal legacy is not so great, however. For most of my successes were often met with a derisive comment. Sounds like Drew. But you've got Sam. Ladies and gentlemen, the Loch Ness Monster himself, Sam Kane.
Thank you, Mike, for your kind words. Thanks, everyone, for attending. I'm indebted to Darren Parent, who's not here tonight, and to the other individuals responsible for this evening. Gratitude to the Ventura County Educators Hall of Fame Committee for electing me. I'm honored, I'm humbled. A phantasmagoria, son of Holocaust survivors whose entire family perished. My mother lived through the almost always fatal typhus and escaped twice during the death march to the gas chambers at Treblinka. Mom and Dad met in a displaced persons camp in Poland, then underwent a 9-year immigration process to start life over in the United States, land of opportunity. But how? From the get-go, my parents emphasized education. My mother herself enrolling to learn English at the local adult school in Boyle Heights, East LA, where we had settled. Mom's English paid off, literally. Having learned how to sew at age 12 in Europe, she was now able to communicate about and offer her skill to local dry cleaning stores and became the reliable alterations lady. And she could work from home. My father, meanwhile, could not pursue English as he was trapped with having to work 14 to 16-hour days in his craft, watchmaking and hand weaving, 6 days a week to support us. The lesson for me, Mom's acquisition of English started our emergence from destitution. Concurrently, instilled in my brother and me was that working hard in school would pay off. And so we did, and so it paid off. In the form of scholarships and work-study eligibility with a boost from Lyndon Johnson's federal anti-poverty program, a qualification for which was good grades. Tutoring privately since age 16, starting with neighborhood kids. I can't remember wanting to do anything else for a career but be an educator. if you don't count being an LA Dodger. It's not serious. That aspiration fit with my parents inculcating in me that teacher is next to God. Honestly. With vicissitudes and corruptions encountered in life, the educator represents the antithesis. Purity, stability, artistry, reason. I was fortunate to have many role models who helped me hone teaching, counseling, and administrative skills, two of whom I'll mention. My 4th grade teacher, Mr. Bjork, made me feel special as if I were the only one in the class, though really there were 30 others. With that magical attention that he gave me, I thrived in learning. On the last day of school, Mr. Bjork asked me to take home a sealed envelope with a letter, which it turned out stated that I was being skipped a grade. Now, incidentally, the 10-year-old me walking home that day concluded that the letter must be saying, "Dear Mrs. Kane, your son has bad breath." I swear, that's what I thought. The teacher's gift to me had been of individual attention. Nor did I ever forget that my 9th grade English and journalism teacher, Miss Orozco, having appointed me the editor of the school newspaper, actually came by my house one Saturday morning, and imagine God herself visiting me, picked me up and drove me to the school so we could work on the paper together. Her gift, time, and effort. Now fast forward over the years. I am finally a teacher, and time to give back. I remember being asked in the interview before I was hired about my commitment. "I'll give it everything I have," I replied. "I'm available 24 hours a day," and I meant it. Mike kind of pointed out. Time and diligence, the great equalizers. Time and diligence. I've been as rich as, say, Bill Gates in ability to give time and diligent attention in order to fulfill the promise I made so long ago to give it everything I have. It was a joy and privilege to devote marathon hours for meetings, conferences, consoling, I don't mean the word consulting, consoling, tutorials, projects, and events. But nothing is accomplished single-handedly, exemplified by lengthy rolling credits after a movie. Therefore, I want to acknowledge a few of the collaborators, inspirers, friends, primarily those who are here. Principals Richard Johnson and Mike Waters worked with Mike a quarter century, both under whose leadership I received Educator of the Year awards. And by the way, times have changed since that first accolade 50 years ago, when I was called to a Board of Education meeting and the superintendent announced, "Can you believe Mr. Kane is getting this award even though he has a beard?" I was a rebel. Sandra Martinez, last year's CVUSD Educator of the Year, every day eliciting the best from all students, including some who face tough life challenges. Lisa and Chuck Severance, Good. Sandra, raise your hand for a second. There's Sandra. And Lisa and Chuck Evans, raise your hand. Okay, when I'm saying names, raise your hand. Jeannie and Jeannie Bow. Jeannie, there you are. Jeannie and I, and then Lisa and I, we work cohesively, synergistically as counselors. It was a pleasure. Leo and Cindy Rothberger, if you just raise your hands for a second, and Art Angel and Linda Bodlander, just raise your hands. Leo, Art, and I go back some 60 years to Boyle Heights. Amazing, since we're all turning 39. That's why I bring it up. Okay. And Rick and Grace Tallman, we go back to the start when the Conejo Valley had one traffic light. Remember that, Rick? Yes. And you, that I just named, have all been stabilizers in my life. Administrators, Margaret Sala, Drew Pasalacqua, Shane, Frank, Leslie Weiss, Gary Weiss, and teachers, Mike Newland, here with Lorraine Newland, Krista Lamb, who was also a former student of mine, Nicole Wall, there you are, and Mike Bond, here with Kathy Bond, all in the noble profession, education, and all parts of teams complementing each other, striving to reach students via multiple approaches. Teamwork, support, which brings me to Bonnie Kane. Where are you, Bonnie? Bonnie Kane, my wife, my biggest cheerleader, who along with my mother and father, my son Michael, daughter Elise, and brother Jack, have been the most influential people in my life. Bonnie, you share tonight's award with me. I used to read a Reader's Digest monthly feature called My Most Unforgettable Character. Anyone remember that? Yes. My Most Unforgettable Character. Bonnie is my most unforgettable character. In a juggling act, she raised 2 kids, took care of my disabled mother for many years, volunteered often at Sequoia and Colina middle schools, and in evenings directed a learning center we owned. How did I get so lucky as to have Bonnie in my life? In wrapping up, I entered Conejo Valley USD as a middle school math teacher at age 22 years and 2 months. The single youngest employee, I checked it out, and retired as the single oldest. Also checked that out. Fittingly, I ended where it all began for my mother, at an adult school, giving back. To enter the Ventura County Educators Hall of Fame is the honor of my life because Hall of Fame is forever.
On behalf of the Ventura County Educators Hall of Fame, I'd like to present this ring to Sam as our newest member. Congratulations to both our recipients. And now I'd like to introduce the Ventura County Teacher of the Year After 24 years in the classroom and still inspired by nature, Shannon Kleeman continues to create opportunities for students to think like scientists. She has inspired approximately 5,000 students, 8 student teachers, and hundreds of local colleagues across the curriculum. She has collaborated with countless science teachers from around the nation, some of whom are using the Channel Islands storyline curriculum she authored. A lifelong learner of all of her contributions to education, Shannon is most proud that the pedagogical protocol, that's a word I have to practice. Lively sessions and engaging explorations she has helped to create will have an impact greater than her own classroom career, helping all students receive the inspirational science experience they deserve. With that, I'd like to introduce the Ventura County Teacher of the Year, Shannon Kleeman.
I'm Shannon Clement. I teach at Camarillo High School. I teach biology. And so I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but go ahead and raise your hand if you had a teacher that influenced your education in some way. Pretty easy with a room full of educators, right? So I have another question for you. When I was little, this movie is definitely before my time, but my parents showed me this movie called To Serve With Love. How many of you know the movie? Just go ahead and, yep, okay. It's definitely older. It was, I don't know if it was anything on, but it was definitely old when I saw it. But it was, so what I wanted to talk about with that is, even though we have all these teachers that have influenced our lives, we didn't necessarily write them hit songs, right? And if you notice her with love, you know what I'm talking about. But being here tonight, so all we can do is kind of go along and like hope we're making contributions in kids' lives. And so I think that the reality is not like To Serve With Love, where he immediately realizes he's made this huge impact and it's going to teach forever and it's going to be amazing. I think our teaching careers tend to be more like Mr. Holland's Opus. How many of you seen that one? Right. And where you don't even realize the impact you've had until your career is at 4 years in. And I feel very humbled to be up here today after watching these amazing educators get honored. And I feel like they just had a really amazing opus, and I feel honored to have been here for it. So thank you for letting me share the stage with you. My mother-in-law and father-in-law were both elementary teachers. My husband is a middle school teacher. Our daughter is at Berkeley studying to be a biology teacher. We are a family of teachers. It's in our blood, as you say. So I'm just really proud to get to honor Ventura County, and I know all the hard work that goes into every lesson plan and every day, and so I think we're all better together, and I accept this honor on behalf of all of you and all the hardworking colleagues that I have. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm glad to have met a Teacher of the Year. So congratulations for your award. I'd now like to bring up our keynote speaker, Phoung Mai.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank Darren, like you guys have earlier, for inviting me. He couldn't be here tonight, but he's really the reason how I got moved into this event. My name is Phoung Mai. I'm what we call a product of Ventura County's public education system. I went to just, elementary school, then somehow, school, went to Camarillo High School, and then eventually went on to attend the University of Pennsylvania. I had the honor of coming here last year because I wanted to share my story of one teacher from Los Altos who really changed my life. This teacher was Marilyn Bjork, an educator who spent over 40 years devoted to shaping our youth in the Pleasant Valley School District and the first inductee to the Hall of Fame. Tonight I'm here with several of BJ's colleagues, friends, family, and former students to show love and support and celebrate Marilyn's life. She peacefully left us this past May at 94 years young, but her memories and her impact on our lives always remain. Consider this my love letter to her. About 20 years ago, I was part of the first cohort of 6th graders that transitioned to Los Altos from a junior high to a middle school back in 1999. In fact, Matt Orchard was my homeroom teacher, and this is my first time seeing him since then. So my favorite memories of middle school was being a speech kid under the tutelage of Marilyn Bjork. She was a legend, developing young leaders through her award-winning speech program. Equal parts sassy and classy. I remember her coiffed white curls, her golden earrings, and her power blazer, always looking very sharp. I didn't grow up with grandparents. My parents immigrated from Vietnam back in the 70s. So Miss Bjork, or BJ as we like to call her, sort of became like my fairy godmother in some ways. I remember I was invited to the National Speech Tournament hosted by the Junior Forensics League, which took place in Dayton, Ohio, of all places. But truth be told, my family couldn't afford to fly me there, let alone pay for hotels for summer nights. So what does BJ do? She pulls me aside one day after class, and with a sparkle in her eye, she says, "I've got a scholarship for you." I wasn't sure what she meant because I hadn't applied to anything that I knew of. But she handed me a whopping $500 check. This wasn't charity. This was compassion. She wanted me to compete at the national level. And as educators, you know that when you believe in your students, nothing will stop you. I ended up placing 6th nationally that year in original order. So try to make public speaking is often cited as one of America's biggest phobias. In fact, in some surveys, it even supersedes fear of death. It's true. And Mrs. Bjork helped thousands of students develop this very important skill, and her impact on our community rippled beyond her classroom. As early as kindergarten, I competed in my very first Pleasant Valley School District speech tournament thanks to BJ's program. It was a short 4-line poem, but I remember trembling with nervousness, and I continued to compete every single year until I was old enough to join the Big Kids Camino Real Speech League in junior high. She taught us how to stand, how to gesture, when to make a pregnant pause, and how to skillfully weave quotations in our speeches. These are lifelong skills that I've seen executives pay a lot of money to learn. She taught us how to give and receive constructive criticism. Again, something I see even managers in the workplace struggle with. She supported innovation. My friends and I, and Cassie will remember this, invented a new game during speech practice where we would have 2 people go up on stage, and then we would throw them a random topic like Olympians or something, and then they'd have to give an improvised speech together. BJ was so supportive of this new game that she sanctioned it as a new speech category in our league. And fun fact, it still exists today. Most importantly, she taught us confidence in ourselves, which is so important when you're that young. At her podium, she had a picture of a lion with a quote that said, "It's hard to be humble when you're the best." And by golly, she was the best, the greatest of all time. Mrs. Bjork prepared us for the real world by trusting us. She had the speech kids run something called the famous Holiday Boutique, where it was kind of like a glorified garage sale. Students would come and donate items, and then the speech kids would resell them as gifts for people to buy. We're talking about 100% profit margin here for the speech kids. So whatever she last told you, I truly believe she would have made an amazing businesswoman. We somehow had a monopoly with speech kids because we were also in charge of the snack cart operations. Everything from procurement to sales during our nutrition break. And I say nutrition because in reality we were selling sour gummies, chips, and ice cream. But I'm sure we must have convinced ourselves that Funyuns are vegetables. And flaming hot Cheetos are an excellent source of dairy. BJ was also single-handedly responsible for helping me find my very first paid one-time job. It has since become my go-to fun fact for icebreakers. So in 8th grade, she had invited a professional clown to lecture at one of our drama speech classes. And he was looking for someone to help him at an upcoming gig play the Easter Bunny. And somehow BJ recommended me. She probably knew one could use the money and like the hustle. And yeah, so my very first job was the Easter Bunny. I was paid $60 to silently wave at children all day long. It was great. Some people think of their college professors or maybe professional mentors that they have. I think about people who shaped their lives. But for me, Mrs. Bjork was absolutely instrumental in helping me find my voice. She easily was many students' favorite teacher and commanded much respect from all those who knew her. In closing, I have the utmost gratitude for her guidance and her leadership, as I do for all the educators in this room and your ability to positively influence your students. Thank you for all that you do. Congratulations to the newest inductees. Thank you for your many, many years of service to our community. Thank you all. This concludes our speeches and our formal programming for the evening, so have a wonderful night and please get home safely.
I'd like to introduce one more person before we all leave. Sorry, it's one of those things that happen on these events. I'd like to introduce my boss for tonight that I met when I first walked in here. But she was instrumental in putting this whole thing together and holding it together while Darren wasn't here today. But I'd like to introduce Becky Dwordy. Becky.
I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. It means so much when I look at see faces. I actually got involved with the Educators Hall of Fame in 2006 when Les Meredith, my dear Les Meredith, walked in with Darren and said, "Can you help this guy?" And I got the great joy of meeting Jim Lane as well as Mary Parent and of course Les, and all of those that loved us. And during the years, Darren has added on and basically tried to keep winging it. And we had beautiful moments. We had so many. There were almost 400 people. Well, actually, I think a little over, maybe 420 or 25 at our first inductees. And then we were at the Reagan Library on our second one. And they didn't have enough food for us. There was spillover. And that's because all those words that you heard tonight, everyone in this room has been touched by an educator. And they've made the future for all of us. So I thank you for being the educators you are, Mr. Malke, Mr. Kane, Michelle. We are all blessed for that. Now we have lost so many of our people who started this. And I've been asked by Darren to spearhead the construction of a new board to bring forward and keep us going, because it means a lot. What you do is it never comes back in a check. You don't do it for the money. You never did. If you did, you wouldn't be here. So thank you for deciding to be poor. But you are rich in so many ways that those of us who never got the joy. I'm a real estate broker. All my agents hear this first story. I'm a frustrated teacher, so just get ready. Because you're going to hear it all the time. Because I want them to be the best they can be. And the educators like all of you who are here tonight made that happen. And you speak to me. And for those of you who are here tonight, please know we might be reaching out. Because we want to see you again next year. And we want to see teachers honored who've taken from your footsteps, who know what it means to help guide a child, whatever age they might be. And I thank you for every moment, and I thank you for coming tonight and honoring those, and let us all honor more.